Greetings, friends, and welcome back to the 3-Minute Horror Show. My name is Ben, your host, and I love horror movies. In fact, I watch the bad movies so that you don't have to. You're welcome. Today I'll be reviewing the movie Alien from the Deep, aka Alien from the Abyss, from 1989. A bad guy company is dumping toxic dupe into a volcano because capitalism, and they accidentally wake up a huge noodle monster that looks silly as hell.
Wow.
This movie was directed by Italian filmmaker Antonio Margheriti. Now, he directed a bunch of wild Italian stuff from the 70s and 80s, including Cannibal Apocalypse. Not Cannibal Holocaust, the found footage one that takes place in the Amazon basin that everybody's always talking about, but Cannibal Apocalypse, starring John Saxon. Fun fact, when he wanted to appear American, he directed under the name Anthony Dawson. This movie was written by Tito Capri, who also wrote a bunch of crazy Italian stuff in the same time period, including the hilariously bad Light Blast starring Eric Estrada. Fun fact about him, when he wanted to appear American, he wrote under the names Titus Carpenter or Tom Carp. Alien from the Deep is available to stream here in Canada on Arrow and Midnight Pulp. There's an evil chemical company dumping toxic waste into a volcano's heart on an island one barrel at a time. Two environmentalists from Greenpeace pay a skiff captain to get them to the island so they can document the wrongdoings. They sneak their way into the volcano facility and videotape the workers dumping the goop. Things are looking pretty good for them until they're spotted on surveillance cameras and the alarm is raised. The cameraman is caught almost instantly, while the woman, whose name is Jane, gets away. Alien, the 1979 masterpiece that this movie wishes it was innovative and incredibly influential. When you have all that innovation and influence, though, along come the pretenders. Some of them using the source material as inspiration, some outright copying it. Here are a few examples of some Alien rip-offs, clones, also-rans, whatever you want to call them. Shocking Dark. This Italian movie, directed by Bruno Mattei and written by Claudio Fragazzo and his wife Rosella Dutti, billed itself as Terminator 2 and Alien 2 in some markets. In fact, this is the reason why James Cameron had to name his Terminator sequel T2. Inseminoid. Can you guess what this is about by the title? That's right, this movie is about an alien that impregnates a lady on a space base on some crazy alien planet. The itty-bitty baby alien growing inside of her makes her crazy and attack her teammates. Eventually she has those babies, and they look pretty stupid. And finally, Galaxy of Terror. Robert Englund, Joni from Happy Days, and Sid Haig, aka Captain Spaulding, all star in this tale. The tale of a spaceship crew sent on a rescue mission, not unlike Alien. When they finally arrive at their destination, they encounter a monster that uses all of their deepest, darkest fears against them, including a giant worm that tears one lady's clothes off. Fun fact, James Cameron, who we mentioned before, did the production design for this movie. During her escape, Jane meets a wild-eyed lunatic snake farmer from Los Angeles with a monobrow named Bob. He immediately feels her up and then assists her traversal of his jungle home. The pair come up with a plan to get back to the facility to rescue the captured cameraman, and more importantly, the lost videotape. They meet a sympathetic old scientist along the way who takes the company paychecks but doesn't agree with them ideologically. The jungle adventure and the subsequent rescue mission comprise almost the entire runtime of this one. We get hints of a monster during these parts, but the monster doesn't actually factor into the story until the last 20 minutes of the movie. Ted Rusoff. Now, that name probably doesn't mean much to you, but if you're familiar with the type of movies that I cover on this channel, in particular the Italian movies from the 70s and 80s, you know this guy, you just don't know you know this guy. Rusoff was a Canadian-born talent that lent his voice to many, many Italian productions, starting in the late 60s right up until the early 2000s. Most of those roles went uncredited, so the list of movies that he's appeared in has been largely compiled by his fans. Rusoff was the voice of Bob in this movie, though the actor we saw on screen is Daniel Bosch. He also did the voice of Vincent Raven, played by Alice Cooper in Monster Dog. He's one of my favorites. It just so happens that he was married to a voice dubber as well. Carolyn de Fonseca from Rome and Ted Rusoff were married right up until her death in 2009. She was the voice of Jane in this movie, portrayed on screen by Marina Giulia Cavalli. And she also did the voice of Sandra in Monster Dog, Vincent Raven's girlfriend, played on screen by Victoria Vera. Now, when the monster finally does erupt out of the volcano, it starts off looking like an enormous black scorpion, with 2 pinchers and an armored head on the top. It was very obviously cosmetically inspired by the xenomorph from Alien. That's all fine. It rolls in like it's on wheels. It probably was. And then it stands up. Why, oh why, did they decide it needed to be bipedal? It looks so silly. Look at those long, gangly, skinny arms with monster claws hanging from them. I don't know how those legs would be able to support that body. I read that they made this 25 feet tall. Can you imagine? Anyways, between the big alien wandering around and the holes opening up at random in the floor of the facility swallowing people up, Jane and Bob have their work cut out for them. What a disaster! Now you can't deny that the alien in this movie was a dollar store xenomorph ripoff that will either make you laugh or cry. In a sea of Italian horror movies made in the 80s, this is definitely one of them. I will admit though, the dialogue was very funny in that an English speaker did not proof or edit this script way. Like so many of these things are. I still do love to hear that familiar voice dub cast though. That alien should have stayed in the deep if you ask me. I rate Alien from the Deep a 3 out of 10. Mamma mia! As always, a link to my Letterboxd appears in the video's description. Please leave me a like, comment, and subscribe as it really does boost my engagement, helps my channel grow. Smell you later, nerds!
Do you realize how time-consuming it is to milk snakes?